Hey, very good morning and good evening, everyone. Welcome back. So in our last session, we were discussing about the some of the Linux commands, by the way, and let's try to quickly recall what are those commands. So the commands yesterday we were trying to talk about is just two commands only. So one is PS command. Um, the PS is going to give you the list of process which is running in the system, but however, it just shows you the current system process. Current session process. If you want to know all the process inside the system, so -e is what you can use. With more information, you can use -ef. Also can be used as -ef as well. Now, by using this particular option, you will be able to get the list of process which is running in the system. And sometimes, okay, we need to manage this particular process. By the way, we need to kind of kill the process, and that is where, okay, so there's a kill command, and you give the process ID. Okay, Linux actually relates with process ID, and or when the process is actually created, and that is going to get one ID, by the way, and that is called as a process ID. And with the kill command, you will be considering killing that particular process ID, by the way. All right, and so that is what it is. And the next thing which we talked about is the sudo command. Okay, and I think surprisingly, like no one has questioned me one more thing actually. So usually, I mean, logically, you should get a question that, so there are numbers of the PS command. It shows two different numbers. Okay, so first let me launch an instance and show you. All right. So let me see if I can connect to this. All right. And so over here, now if I give ps-ef, I will see the many process, by the way. Now I was talking about this process ID, like, so the second column, generally, like, I mean, we need to hear that, or we need to understand there's also another number in the third column. Okay. So now if you look into the top, there is some headers about it, which is called as PID and PPID. What is PID and what is PPID? So PPID is the parent process which creates this particular child process. Okay. Now all the process tree is going to get related, by the way. So it's like a process tree. That means like process start with maybe some 0 number, and from there all the child process will born from there. Okay, when the operating system starts, so so their first process, and I mean, the process will evolve, and all the process will be child of those particular process. Okay, so it is like a family. Okay, now there are two processes actually which will come as a part of system boot up. One is process number 1 and the process number 2. Now you take any process, the relation ends up with either with 1 or 2. Now, for an example, you take 1371 and the parent of this is 1335. Now, if I go with 1335, who is the parent? 1334. And if I go with the 1334, it is 1320. And 1320, if I go with, the parent is 1263. And 1263, if I go with, I ended with number 1. Okay. But some process you see this, so the number 2 is the parent. Now, yesterday, while I was showing you the task manager in Windows, by the way, so they're categorizing the process, right? So apps is one thing, Windows process is something, background process is something they're showing. Now, here also there are two categories, by the way. Okay. So OS related process, which is process number 1. That means end of the day, all your process, ends up with 1, by the way. And there's also another one which is called as process number 2, which is actually called as kernel and kernel process. Okay, so this you don't manage, by the way. You can't touch any of these particular process. You don't have any control on that. Even if you are a root user, you will never have any control on this. So this comes as a core of the operating system, which is a Linux kernel, we call it up. Okay. Now, how this particular Linux, what is this Linux kernel? And this wording came into picture. Like someone was asking me about something about a history. So they asked me about the commands, by the way. Now, so this is the history, by the way. And the same history can be thought in another way. Now, what is a Unix operating system is where a software and a hardware made by same person. The software and hardware made by a same person. For an example, I'm using a Mac OS, Apple Mac, and this is a Unix box, by the way. That means the software and the hardware is being shipped by the same person. Apple is not manufacturing the hardware and asking someone to build the software. No, right? So this is natively the Unix box, by the way. Now, how Linux is different here. Now, Linux came with a thought of, okay, so fine, the software and hardware is there. Now I want to break that layer. Okay, so now we wanted to break that layer. That layer breaking project itself is nothing but called as the Linux idea, by the way. Now you have a software, you have a hardware, and you have a hardware. Okay, now, okay, now the history I was telling about is the Richard Stallman was working on some software but he was not successful. Now, whereas Linus Torvalds came into picture and he actually made it successful. And so he named that as a kernel and things like that, right? So that is this. Okay. So now what actually the OS vendors will do is, now this kernel is still released by Linus Torvalds only. Okay. Kernel.org. So it is his website, and he is still the person who is releasing this particular kernel. Now, what every company will do is, when they'll come to this particular kernel.org, they take this particular one and they build a software around this, and now they're calling it as Linux OS. Okay, so they make the software. Some software given by Richard Stallman as a community, and Linus Torvalds kernel, they take it, and Red Hat will build some other software on top of that, and then finally they make it as a Linux OS. Okay. Now, why I'm taking this history is because this layer of the process, now, process number 1 belongs to managing this one, and the process number 2 belongs to this one. So this you don't manage. You can't manage. Okay. You manage this one only. And that is where, okay, so the process number 1 and 2 comes into picture. So just usually this confuses sometimes. I just wanted to explain something a little bit more around it. Okay, but otherwise, I mean, it is, if you feel that is too much informative as well, you can ignore that. So all you know about how to kill a process is fine. All right, so that's how it is. And next, let's move on to the next thing which we talked about. Now, anytime there is a process that which I can't, I mean, if anytime there is a task that which I can't deal with that, so then probably what you can do is you can take the help of sudo, which is native, by the way. And if it is a I mean, if it is a power broker, there is a pb command or pb run, something will be there. Power broker, power broker Linux command line. Something like that. So here, rather than this, sorry. So I just would like to give you an understanding. So if it is a power broker, now however you are running, you see this, he's giving an example here. PB run AWS test dot sh something is running. Now yesterday what we are running, sudo some command. So now here running, instead of sudo AWS underscore test dot sh, he's going to uh, uh, he's going to run with pb run. That's it. Like, so if it's a third party software, they will give their command. That's it. Okay. So it's nothing much difference, by the way. But end of the day, so you're going to use some other power, I mean, some other privilege escalation tool, and you will escalate the privileges, by the way. So that is how it is going to be. All right. Now here we are using native one, which is sudo. Sudo comes by default. So that's where I'm just using this. Now, yesterday I was showing so how you can use sudo and you can kill some process and things like that, right? That's okay. So today we'll see a little bit more next things. You will understand how you can use that. Okay. So to start with, so today there's a revision what we have done in yesterday's session. So to yeah. So the package management, now package management is a very crucial activity that you do in your day-to-day activity of a DevOps engineer, generally, because you kind of set up the softwares around the machines, like to run your application. Okay, let's say if the developer is, again, we have to go to the roles and responsibilities of what we have discussed, by the way. Ensure is the software released smoothly. Okay, this has been, the software comes from a developer, you release smoothly. Now, the developer would have used any programming language to develop. He may use Java, he may use Python, he may use Node.js. It doesn't really matter. Some programming languages are there. He will actually develop in that, and ultimately you're going to take them and run on the servers, right? Now, while you're doing that, it is a Java software. You need to install first Java on the machine, and then you install the developer program, and then you run it and things like that. And in order to do that, you should know about how to install packages in your Linux box. And how do you install the packages in your Linux box is, and there's a package management section, by the way. So by using this particular package management utility command, you can deal with that. And in Red Hat OS, all the softwares comes as a .rpm, which is like .msi in Windows. In Windows, it is .msi, right? Microsoft installer. Okay, whereas exe is a generic one. Okay, may not be every time exe. Exe works with others also, but Microsoft, if you talk about the native, is .msi. So here also you have something which is .rpm. Okay, the software comes with .rpm extension, which we called as Red Hat Package Manager, uh, which is also now called as RPM, which is RPM Package Manager. Red Hat is open sourced it, and though it is Red Hat Package Manager, so people now call it as majorly as RPM Package Manager as well. Now the next one is in case, okay, if you want to list down all the packages which is there installed on the system, by the way, then there is a command which is called as DNF. But however, like let's say if it's an admin command that you may need to go with sudo, that's where I think for listing you don't really require, but still you can just, okay, so start using that particular practice. So sudo DNF list installed. Now you can just go here and it is going to find out what are the packages which is installed on the system. So it may take little time for the first time when you run these particular commands. It's just going to take build some metadata around what are the packages which are installed, which are available to install. All that metadata it will try to prepare. So that's where it might take little time for the first time. So now you can see this. These are all the packages, okay, which are installed, by the way. Now it is telling, so what is the package name and what is the version and from where it got installed. So 3 things it is telling. Okay. So the third one is nothing but the source where it has been installed. We'll talk about that bit later. But yeah, so otherwise you're getting it. Now, whereas there are packages which are available to install also, which you have not installed, and those are available to install. Now, unlike Windows, Linux maintains a repository, by the way. So that means software, they'll maintain the package repository. In Windows, whenever you want a software, you download that exe or MSI file and you run it and install it, right? But here Red Hat actually, they come with, or any Linux vendor, they come up with a bunch of packages already from their OS, okay? But everything you may not have installed and those particular packages, plus any third party if you have also, you can use them, all right? So that's how, so there are packages which are available to install also will be there in Linux. In Windows, maybe you don't have. Windows also, I think you have that. Maybe you can choose some software, some extra component, something like that. We generally used to install this one, Telnet and all. If I just want to install Telnet, Windows. Now this comes as a inbuilt one only, but however won't come by default. Now, what do we do there is, maybe we just go to the properties of somewhere. So turn Windows features on and off, something you choose, and there you choose a Telnet client and just run that. Okay. So this is how, these are all available to install, but have not installed. Okay. That's where you're choosing to install. Right. So these are inbuilt things of Windows. Same with Linux. Okay. So is also having the same idea that your packages which are installed, it will show you, and also which are available to install also, it will show you. Now, if you want install available. But if you don't want that way, by the way, you want both the things, whether it is installed or available, you just want them. So then DNF list, okay, or DNF list all, anything is fine. You simply give list, it will show you both. Or you give all, it does both. Both that does the same thing. Okay. So now here enter DNF list all, that means it is going to show you installed packages plus available packages. And out of this, I wanted to go with some sort of a search, by the way, because it's bombarded with a huge list and I can't remember or I can't search that. Then probably grep up some keyword, some package name makes sense for us to understand. So we are getting this. So that's about a simple find out the information about the packages which is there, by the way. However, if you want to install, very simple, by the way, you can simply go and give, if I simply go and give DNF, the same command, if you run without sudo, this command will run, by the way, listing only. So listing any user can do is the idea, okay, for these guys. Oh, this is also giving permission denied. This is new actually to me. So then at least available. So this is news to me actually, until, or maybe something wrong also, I'm not sure. I had to download metadata, it is telling. But yeah, so earlier it used to do for a normal user also, we used to do that. Okay. For an example, do I have any machine from CentOS? CentOS, just wanted to show you that difference. Now let's mark the difference. Oh, these are running from a couple of days. All right, at least I have a machine. I can just show you. Now this is a 8 machine. Okay, so Red Hat 8. Now in this machine, sudo dnf list, no sudo actually, dnf list all file gripper nginx. So you can see this. So for listing purpose, earlier operating system, it used to work with even without a sudo. I think here also it is even without sudo, but here this machine is having some problem. It is telling so problem with the metadata, but however, if I do with sudo, this is not coming. Okay, so let's understand. Okay, um, there is some problem, and that problem can't be dealt with a normal user, and that's where without sudo it is not working. Okay, but ideally I'm thinking it should work is what I'm thinking, but I really don't know. So what all the changes happened in this version of operating system. So anyhow you end up, so DNF command most of the times with sudo. So let's stick with sudo itself to list down the packages also. Okay, so that's how you can do that. But however, now if you go with the installation part, so now let's say DNF install, for an example, any package name. So one example is install. Now immediately it is going to tell us that, hey, okay, you are supposed to done it with a super user privileges, which is sudo. Okay, so then that's where sudo if you give, then you can see that it is installing Nginx, and also it is installing some dependencies from Nginx. So if you want to run Nginx, there are some other packages that you need to install. That also is being taken care, and it is asking yes or no. If you give yes, you will proceed. N means you will not proceed. I gave N. Okay, I did not proceed. Now, however, you want to install, but you don't want to ask with yes or no, you can always end up with hyphen Y option at the ending. If you give that, you're automatically giving that answer as yes, by the way. It will not prompt in between and ask you. Okay, so to install it. Okay, that is where it is. And that's about install package. And however, you can also go with if you have any time, there is an updates available for Nginx. You can also go with yum update Nginx. Okay, you can go with, and that the last option which we are going to talk about here is yum space remove nginx. Okay, so now it is installing, it is removing nginx, and all its dependency also it is removing, and all its dependency also it is removed. Okay, so this is what is we have with the the package management. By the way, the first part of package management, we are finding out the list of packages by using DNF list. Install the package, DNF install on the package name. And so to remove the package, DNF remove. And sometimes you need to update the package, which is DNF update. Okay, so this is what it is. But however, there is a second part to this particular one, which is basically is if you have wondered, by the way, how DNF is managing this installation, like, if you have observed, by the way, the installation part, it may be downloading and installing it. Okay, so you can see this downloading packages. Where is it downloading it from? The heading it is telling is downloading, and then it is actually trying to running the installing, by the way, right? So the first step it is trying to do is downloading. Now, if you have wondered where this particular DNF is managing, or DNF is managing the installation, or if you see the DNF in managing the installation, you will see downloading the package and installing it. But where is it downloading from is a question mark, right? And that is where we need to understand. So the command DNF will refer the repositories under a location which is called as etcm.repos.de. Okay. So location is there, cd/etc yum.repos.de, do ls. Now there are some bunch of repo files, and these repo files are responsible, and these repo files is having the information where it is supposed to download it from. Okay, for an example, Red Hat RHUI. So now if you give this, now it is telling that you can get the packages from this location. Okay. Now let's try to do something which is called as sudo DNF list pipe grepper Jenkins. I'm searching for a package name called as Jenkins, and you don't see any package name called as Jenkins here. Okay. But Jenkins is a widely used software. Why is it not there? Okay. Because the system doesn't know where the Jenkins is. So that path of where the Jenkins is available, that means the URL of where the Jenkins is available to download and install is not available here. So that is where you need to download the Jenkins repo file. Okay. So Jenkins repo file will be there. Sorry, it's a curl and it's a sudo curl, and you download the repo file, which is jenkins.repo file. Now, if you see the repo file, so here, so now the information is quite simple. So this package group name, the third column, whatever we have seen so far, right? The third column, okay. This is the third column, the heading, and some name with a description. That's okay. Now, where the packages are available, the URL. Now, where the packages are available, the URL. So some security check you do is what it is telling. That's okay. Now, if I just go and give DNF sudo DNF list, you will be able to find out the Jenkins package it is showing, because the jenkins.repo is available. You see that? So the Jenkins package is there, and this is the version, and it is coming from this one. This repo name is not the file name, by the way. Here you are going to give that. It is going to. So all you need to do is you need to create a .repo file inside this particular location with the path and all. And usually when you try to install any software from a vendor, they provide repo files. They provide repo files, and we're going to deal with that. And Red Hat itself will come with a lot of generic softwares to install in their repository itself. Plus, if it is any third-party software, generally they will try to install. Generally, they'll try to give the repo file to install, and you simply use that and run it, and you'll be done. Okay. So that comes to the second part of this one. And also there is one more scenario that you will be having is where some guys might not give you the repo file, but they may give you the RPM path. And what you can understand here is you can also install DNF simply by going and giving the URL of the package also. If you give the URL of the package, that package will get installed by DNF as well. Okay. So that's about something to deal with package management. So in the package management, you list the packages, DNF list, install, DNF install, remove, DNF remove, sometimes update, DNF update. And where is it downloading and where it does know the path and all, there is a location called as etc.m.repos.d in the system. And in that location, if you have .repo file, you place one repo file, okay, with some the valid configuration that YUM will understand, DNF will understand, and then it will, okay, it will go and install that. All right, so that's about the package management. Any questions on this?
Yeah. Hello, Raghu.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I see over here, because we're using Rel 9 and we're using DNF to query some commands. So my question is, for Rel 9, can we also apply YUM for installation, for updating, and for removal, and also for availability of some packages, and also to check or to query them from the repos? Can we use YUM instead of DNF, or just DNF alone?
So YUM has been deprecated a decade back almost when Red Hat 8 came into picture. Not a decade, I would say like at least 6-7 years back. Okay, so they introduced a new package manager, and yes, so you can still use it, but it may get deprecated at any point of time. So it's an outdated software, and that's where better use the latest one, which is DNF. Though it is working, but don't stick with that. So go with D.
Thank you. And my second question, for some companies that are still using Rel 7 or Rel 8, can they apply DNF or they can still stick to YUM because they are on Rail 7 or 8?
No, 7 is YUM only, YUM only. But from 8, DNF has been introduced. It is DNF, and there are many features that where YUM will not support it. DNF has, by the way, which is modules. So DNF has a module list. Okay. So module list. All right. So, but where YUM doesn't have that. So the modules, anyhow, what is this module and all? I'm not telling at this point of time. Later in the sessions, when we do the project and all, we'll talk about module also. Okay, I'm not introducing that here. So yeah, so these features and all is not there with YUM. And also another major problem with the YUM is when you actually use YUM, when you install any package, it installs automatically the dependencies, right? But whereas when you try to remove the package, it won't remove the dependencies, by the way. So that's a very big problem with the YUM as well. Okay. So DNF is addressing. So there are certain enhancements on DNF. So while you have more features, why to stick with the old software? So better start using DNF.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Hello.
Yeah.
So my question is like this repo is kind of exe files, right? If we don't have the repo file for any corresponding package, we will not be able to install that, right?
No, repo is nothing but repository. It's an English word only. Okay. So there's no technically here. So where you keep everything in one place is called as a repository. And so here, the repo meaning, by the way, so where is your list of info? I mean, where is your list of packages? You are providing the information, and in a format file that is a repo file. Yeah.
So it's like when I'm comparing with Windows, like we should have the exe file for installing any software. So same is in Linux, like in repository, we should have the corresponding uh, exe file, and then we can install it. If it is not there, then we have to download it and then install it, right?
No, Windows doesn't have this particular concept, so you don't have anything to compare there right now. You can ignore that. So this is how you do that in Linux.
No, my question is like if I want to install any package, the corresponding file should be there in the repository, right? If it is not there, then we have to download it.
Correct. But Windows doesn't have a repository concept, is what I'm trying to tell.
No, yeah, I'm just okay, leave the Windows thing, but this is the only concept.
Correct. We already talked about that, right? The screen is also telling that if someone
No,
provide you the RPM,
I'm
you
just
are
getting the, yeah. Okay.
yeah.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, Renu. So my doubt is regarding the process management. So are I mean, you showed us the PIDs of the processes, right? Of the child processes. So is there any limit on the number of process IDs OS can provide? Because the question I'm asking is because like the zombie process, if they're overloaded, right? Even though they don't use the resources, what I heard is they take up all the PIDs of the system.
I think I'm not sure actually. I mean, the zombie process is still the concept exists in the latest versions of kernel is a question which I have, by the way.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So yes, it was there maybe a very long back, and when the Linux was in the phase of maturing and all, so where it can't handle certain scenarios, it used to get into zombie. But I'm not completely sure that in the latest versions, if zombie process still exists, by the way, and not every scenario that So I mean, at least also I'm not sure that zombie process will consume the PIDs. At least I never seen that scenario so far. This is the first time I'm hearing that statement.
Because like yesterday it was in the same like in the previous screen you had the additional points to refer, right? In that you were asking about zombies, so I referred this tutorials point in that we
Okay.
had.
Okay.
Okay,
Maybe.
maybe the source might be wrong. I'll cross check
No.
some others.
Source may be right, actually. I am a bit outdated, no doubt in that. So there may be a scenario that it can cause more process also. That depends upon the program type. But at least like today's world, I don't think so. Zombie makes sense. Yeah.
So basically, they will be auto deleted, I guess, right? Based on the assumption of us.
I mean, that scenario wouldn't come into picture is what I'm thinking. So I need
Okay,
to,
okay, got it.
yeah, the source of information. I will also try to cross-check to read about it, by the way. But yeah, let me see. I'll come back on this particular part.
Yeah, sure. Thank
Yeah, hello Raghu.
Yeah.
Yeah, good morning.
Yeah,
Yeah,
please go.
my question is, curl is only for downloading, not for installing, right?
Correct.
Okay. Okay, Raghu, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, Raghu, another one is, if you want to download anything by using curl, we have to connect with internet, right?
Yes, of
Then
course.
only it will start download.
That doesn't matter, right? It can be internet as well. So if the package you're downloading is somewhere in internal as well, internet is also fine. Not only internet. And that matters where you are actually downloading it from.
Okay. Okay, Raghu.
Hello, Raghu. Notice for packages expiration is in certification expired.
Your voice is breaking. Can you please a bit louder as well?
Okay. Is there any certification issues for some package certification expired like that? Hello.
Can you elaborate your question? Maybe a bit more context.
Some any certification expired packages like that. Is there any issues like that?
Are you talking about the issue which we are getting there?
Yeah.
May or may
Certification
not.
package expired like that. Is there anything?
May or may not be. Okay. I don't think so because with root user it is working, right? There could be something else, I feel.
Okay.
Hi Raghu. So just wanted to check, is this whatever repo or maybe using the curl we are downloading, right? So this is similar to the adding to the source list, right?
I overheard you. Please, can you come again?
Yeah, so whatever the URLs we are trying to use using the curl and we are trying to download the packages, right? So normally we used to do adding the URLs from what is the source and all to download the packages to the source list in Linux based systems.
Let's correct your statement, by the way. So
Mhm.
curl command is to download a file. That doesn't mean only packages you can download. It can be any file.
Yeah, so yeah, sorry. Maybe I put it in a wrong way. So what I mean is that so if the wherever we are trying to download, so it has to refer from the source list whatever we have in the system, right? If it is not there in the source list, I don't think so it will be downloadable.
Correct.
I mean, okay.
We already seen that scenario. Why the question? Like, what is the question then? So we did a DNF list of Jenkins, and that is not there. So here, when we actually did the DNF list for Jenkins, the package is not showing. After that, I downloaded one repo file, which is from the vendor. So this is from vendor only. I downloaded the file. And after that, I'm able to DNF list from Jenkins. It is coming. So without a repo.
Okay, so so can we open that source list here? That's what I mean. So now we are just checking whether that is exist or not. So normally we have like a source list file separately, right? We can just open that and see and we can add the source list over there, right? Where to download.
Yeah, that is also mentioned here, right? So the repo file is having that information, where it is coming
Oh,
from.
okay. Now I got it, Raghu. So I think it's a source list and the repo is both are similar.
Yeah, if you are generally comparing source list as source list, or is it anywhere? I mean, if you're generally comparing this is the repo file has the information where to download it from.
Yeah, I got it, Raghu. Thank you.
Yeah.
Here we go. I think just trying to confirm one thing. So no matter where we are, as soon as we give the DNF command, the package will be, or the repository, it will be downloaded to the etc./em.repos directory, right?
No, not really. I clearly told that repo file should be here.
Correct. So, so we have to go to that particular folder, then we have to download that file, that package.
No, I'm giving the full path, right? So you know to be going onto the folder. If I'm not giving the full path, then yes, you have to go into that path and download.
Okay. So we have to provide the path where we have to download the package, and then we have to go, right?
No.
I mean, if we don't give DNF, we have to give the target folder, target path, right? But if you give DNF, we don't have to give that, right? Or do we?
No, DNF is a package, by the way. So whereas curl is downloading, both are two different.
Correct. No, I get it. But if we just give DNF sudo, where's the command? 1 second.
DNF of what? Sorry.
If we just try to download the package and using the DNF, won't it download it in the repository folder? That's etc/em.repos.d, or we have to provide the target folder.
No, I'm really confused with your question, by the way. So I'm not getting dots connected. So
Okay, yeah. So what does DNF?
Me,
what does DNF do, Raghu? Sorry, if you don't mind explaining.
It's a
package.
It's a package manager.
Okay.
It's a package manager which installs the packages.
Okay. And do we have to always download the package? Suppose Jenkins in this case at a certain target folder always in Linux box.
So that package will take care of where to install, by the way. In Windows also, when you just download one file, you click next and all, some path it will tell that, hey, I'm installing in this. So here also it will go and install in the defined location, by the way. Okay. So it is not installing in the current path. If your question is, if you do a install DNF install, will it install in the current path or somewhere else? If that is your question.
No, installing is fine. Installing it will do at certain path. That is clear. But we have to download the package first, then we have to install it, right? If I not even.
It will take care. You don't need to specify anything. It may be using some temporary location somewhere to download and install.
Okay.
Right. So that's where the RAM comes into picture, right? Generally, what is the purpose of RAM? Temporary
memory. Yeah.
So it may be using something else. We don't really need to bother about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
But if you are really interested in that particular one, so there is a location where lib yum is a place that it uses something, if I'm not wrong, or if the DNF has changed something, I'm not sure. But yeah, so it uses some disk place to temporarily download and RPM, I think, where lib RPM. So somewhere it will just download the packages, wherever something it will do.
Correct. So after the session is like gone, then it will delete all those temporary files, right?
May or may not be deleting. I don't want to conclude on. It's doing the job, I don't bother as long as it's doing.
I get it. Sure, thanks.
Yeah, Raghu.
Yeah.
So you said that you don't need to define the path, but over here you already defined the path whereby you want the package you download to be installed, that which is HCM repos D. And over there, when you use curl command, because what you want to download is not on the repos D, you use the curl command to download it, and you now use DNF to install it. So my question is, for both download and install, you're gonna use curl and DNF. But for just installing, because the package is already in the repos D, they can use DNF, right? But over there,
I think you're too much confused. In Windows D, is it possible? Your curl is a browser we compared with that, right? So curl is a browser, correct? Now
Correct.
the browser can help you with the browsing and downloading. Now that means your browser is installing any software, or is it just downloading?
I understand that part you're talking about, because Jenkins that you use, for example, is not in the repos D. You have to use curl to bring it down, to download it. Then you now use DNF to install it. Unlike when you use the Nginx, whereby Nginx is already in the repos D, you only call it from the repos D to download, to install, right?
Right.
Because when you're running the Nginx, we saw it was downloading and at the same time installing, and also installing the other packages, right? But for Jenkins, because Jenkins is not in the repos D, you use curl to call it, then you now use DNF to install it, and of which you've already laid a path where you want it to be installed, which is etc yum.repos D.
With the curl, what we are downloading is a repo file.
Correct.
With the curl, whatever.
Yeah, I can see your cursor. So that means that you've already laid the path whereby you want Jenkins to be installed, which is etc yum repos D, then / Jenkins.repo. Correct?
Yes, it is already, we already discussed about that as well. So all the files has to be in etcm.repos.d. Then only it will.
I thought I heard you saying that you don't need to lay the path when you're explaining to the other fellow another time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Whoever it is. Someone in the name of Educad, can you just unmute and talk?
Hi, Raghu. Yeah. So I was just wondering if we, like in Windows, we can specify the location where we have to install the package or any binary like exe file. Over here in Linux, can we specify the like custom location where we need to install this package by default? Like when we executed this command dnf install, that installed the Jenkins package, and we are not aware where did it install. Like you have told us that by default there is a directory where all the packages are being installed. But is there any way we can define a custom location to install any package or software, so that whenever we want to uninstall that, we can safely remove or delete that folder permanently, rather than if there are any residuals of those of that installation, since we have not yet learned how
That's
to
fine.
uninstall a
Simple.
package.
Simple question is,
Yeah.
can you specify a path while installing, right?
Yeah, that's
So the answer is no in Linux, and Windows also it is no only, by the way. Only the folder path you're specifying. Okay, you just copy these files or install these files in this location. But if you double click on that folder, now there are 100 files. Can you tell that this file you go to this location, that file you go to this location? You can't do that. There also, Windows also, right? You only just tell the top level folder, by the way. So you install in this location, but sub level things is actually never possible even with Windows, and with Linux, even that first level is also not possible. So that is the design of the operating system. If you remember, while comparing with the Linux and Windows, by the way, I was telling Linux came up with a proper folder structure, a minimal folder structure. All the things should be under this particular place. And everyone any installs the software also, it has to some bin things should go to bin, and so some configuration file should go to some place, something like that. It will Linux is telling in that way. So like in the package management like DNF, it is not possible to specify a separate location. And in Windows, yes, you can specify the top level folder, because the folder level approach of installation. So that is possible, but again, sub-level files and folders is not possible in Windows as well. So here nothing is possible. I think that answers.
Yep, got it. Thank you.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
So here dot repo is nothing but the file extension, right?
File extension, yes, for not for operating system. File extension for yum DNF command. DNF is looking for DNF is looking for the extension, not the DNF is looking for extension, not the OS, by the way. Yeah, if you are coming from yesterday's question and ask, I mean yesterday's point, or some couple of days back, I mentioned that there is no extensions in Linux. If you are referring to that, yeah.
And whatever we downloaded it from curl command, does it come with the extension like .repo and it will be stored in that yum/repo directory?
Whatever, sorry?
Whatever the file that we downloaded using curl command, does it come and store in that .repo repository which is in this extension
Just
like
now talking
etc yum.repo?
We're just not talking that only, right? So .repo you are considering as an extension, but it's not an extension, it's a file name. The name of the file should end with .repo. If it is .repo only, yum will consider. If you keep some other name, yum will not, sorry, yum in the sense like DNF will not consider.
Yeah, that's my question actually. Like, what if we download something which is not .repo file? Like,
it won't consider. Simple.
Okay, so okay, got it.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Just on the left, download Jenkins repo, the curl, then there's this path, HTTP, the whole till -o. That one is all coming from the repo file. Then -o, and afterwards, like /etc/yum dot repos dot d /jenkins dot repo. This is the one that we have to. It's a standard one, right?
Yeah, this is a standard location for DNF.
Yeah, DNF. And then, because above it was on stating star instead of Jenkins. So instead of star, like you replace it with the software that we're going to download.
Doesn't really matter. File name could be anything. It only looks for whether it is ending with .repo or not.
Okay, but the above one before the -o, the path is given by in the repo. Once we, like, the command for it, we download from the repo, right?
Yeah, this is the location the DNF is telling you have to keep it here.
Okay. Okay. And example, like this command will be, the path will be stated, like example, like we have to remember this command.
You should.
Like, okay. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Cool. So that's about some package management. So you will see some couple of more options when we actually see the requirements. You will see a bit more, especially the module management in package management, which they were introduced in some of the recent operating systems. But otherwise, just keep this much is fine, by the way. So now you know that how the packages are coming and getting installed in your system, the relation. So there is a remote URL, and that URL is configured in some file in your system. And when you actually do a DNF install, it looks in that particular file, and where to download it from, it goes into that download information. It will go to that location and download that information. So that is what we have here. All right, so let's moving on to the next one, and another important one, so which is a service management, by the way. So because the server is all meant about running some services. Okay, so server is all meant about to run some services, by the way. Okay, and that's where, okay, so service management is a very important and crucial one as well. And unlike any, unlike the commands, whatever we have executed so far, there are some commands that should run 24/7, right? Because if it is running 24/7, there is, let's say, there is a web server running to solve a web page, the web server process should run 24/7. Now, if it is like an ls command, okay, if you type it in ending immediately, the end user can't access it, right? So the process runs all the time in the system. Now, when you run that particular process all the time in the system, now, if you start the process and close the terminal, that process will get killed automatically. But however, okay, you require it to be managed in a proper way. The operating system came up with a concept called as service management here, and so help you in starting the services. And the services, not only the user services which you are coming up with. Now, this is a very big operating system, and it has bunch of already predefined services in the system itself to start and manage, by the way, for your operating system to run. Even in Windows also, it is the same thing, by the way. So in Windows also, I'm not sure whether any of the time you have seen it. So there is something called as services even in Windows, by the way. Okay. In Windows, you can go with the service management as well. You can start some service, you can stop some service and things like that. And by default, some services are already there, by the way. Okay. So maybe so for an example, antivirus as a service. When you start the machine, the antivirus starts automatically, right? So you're not actually exclusively starting the service. Maybe a Chrome, you're exclusively opening it because that's a user process. Now it is so if it has to be a system level process, that means it has to act along with the system, then it becomes like more of a standard way. Like while you start the system, you want to start it. Okay, and things like that. Whenever you want to stop it, also you should have a control to stop it and things like that. So those are all possible. By the way, there is a service management concept which is there in Windows. So let's go and try to see this. So here is the services. So you can see this, some of the services are manual, some of them are disabled, some of them are automatic. So now using this, some agent which is running automatically. So you can see this, some of the, so it will run, I don't know, I'm not an expert in Windows, but what are the words you see here, something is there, by the way. There is a device setup manager to manage your devices, maybe. You can always stop the service, okay? And you can always start the service back. Okay, these are all possible, by the way. Maybe this is just a UI. Right. Now, the same way, if you are really installing a web server inside this, web server comes as a service here. And once the web server comes here, you just go and start it. And that's where Windows can also act as a web server. And whoever can access this web, this server, this machine, by the way, can access the web pages. Right. So that is how it is. Now, the Linux also, you have a service management to kind of deal with the things. Now, the same like Windows, if you want to see the list of services, then you have this command. So sudo systemctl is the command, list-units. I want services. So it is actually trying to show you the list of services. Now, if I want to come out, you have to press Q. So you're not coming out, by the way. So you press Q so that you can come out. All right. So these are all the different services are there. Some of them are exited, some of them are running. Okay. So blah, blah, blah. Okay. So that's how you're actually going to list down the services, maybe not needed most of the time. So because we will know the service name, otherwise you can just go and give grep or maybe like some name. So then anyhow, you will see that. So if you at least have some keywords in your mind, then you can always search it also, that's fine. That's okay. But however, if I wanted to just go and start some service, so then sudo systemctl, okay, start. Now there's a package which we installed is nginx. No, that is removed, I think. So sudo dnf install nginx. Now if you install some software, so they came up with the service name also. Now sudo dnf systemctl start nginx. Now it is started. Okay. So now if you want to check it the status, by the way, so status nginx. Now you can see this, the status is running. Okay, again, you need to press to Q to come out. So this one. Now the same way, so systemctl start nginx. So then you can also go for systemctl stop nginx. And also you can go for status nginx. You can see this, it is telling inactive, not running. Right. So this is how you can start and stop a service. So sometimes you need to go for a restart. You have a restart option as well. You have a restart option as well. All right. So that's how it is going to be. Now, this particular one more option, if you see here, there is something called as the vendor preset is coming as disabled, and the current state is also shows as disabled. So even though if I start this particular service for an example, and if I go for a status, now it is telling that it is active and running, which is fine, but here it is showing 2 disabled, by the way. What is this disabled? Now the current state of this particular service is disabled. Now what is the mean of disabled, by the way? So that means this service is going to not start at the time of reboot. If I stop this server and if I start this server back again, the server will not start, this service will not start automatically. Okay. Now, for an example, you want some antivirus to start automatically, by the way. So that service need to be started and also to be kept as automatic. You know, in Windows, you have seen an automatic keyboard, right? Automatic means automatically it has to start. Manual means someone will come and manually start. Now the disabled means it is manual. Okay. So someone has to start the service. Whereas to keep it automatically, so you have to enable that. Okay. So now how do you do the enable? Okay. So sudo systemctl start nginx. Sorry, it's already started. Enable nginx. Now, by doing enable, what you are doing is you're actually starting that particular service at the time of reboot. Now it is tells that it is enabled, but is a preset is disabled. Preset means the vendor, when actually when they created this service, they're not enabling by default. Okay, the vendor preset is disabled, of course, but now in our server it is enabled. That's what it is telling, and that's how this service will start automatically, by the way. And yeah, that's about something about enable and disable as well. All right. And if we try to access this particular service, by the way, so we may not be able to access this particular service. So, I mean, basically, like I started a service nginx, this is a web service. But if I go and try to access this as a web server on the browser, like http:// this one, I'll not be able to access it. So that is where the next thing which will come into picture, which is some sort of networking, not complete networking again. So introduction to networking. And after that, next week, again, we'll talk about some more networking. And after that, again, so 2 more sessions will come into picture, 2 times more networking. Okay. So step by step, we'll evolve. And that's where the next thing is we need to access this particular service. How do you access this service? That's the next concept. But before to that, any questions on these services?
Raghu.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't catch when you were explaining the enabling and the disable. Can you please?
Yeah. So when you actually start Windows also, you have this concept of automatic and manual. Okay. So startup type. That means when you say automatic, you stop the machine and you start the machine, the service will start automatically. You need to go and start manual. Okay. Whereas if it is marked as manual, that means so the server after it is starting, you have to go and start it manually. So you're clear with that automatic manual on Windows, right?
Yeah.
Context. Yeah. Now go to the Linux, by the way. Now, when you say enable, it will start automatically at the time of reboot. But when it is disabled, when you start the machine, it won't start automatically. You have to go and start it manually. That is what is the concept.
So even if you do systemctl start nginx, it's not that it's working. You need to still do systemctl enable before nginx picks up.
Now, when you stop the machine, it logs all its status, right? Then you start freshly the machine. Okay, now the process has to start. That time it will not start. When you manually start it, it is running already. Okay, but that liveness is only possible until you stop the machine and you start it. But once you stop it and start it, this won't start automatically. That's where the enable come into picture. Because let's say there are 10 services, I can't go to 100 machines, and so if any reason the machine is actually rebooted, whatever the reason it is, okay, I shouldn't go to and manually start the services, right? The services also should start automatically. That is the idea.
Okay. So what is the difference between rebooting and restarting of a server or service?
Both are same only.
Okay. Both are the same thing?
Yeah. Rebooting and restarting both are same. Whereas stop and start is different. Okay. Whereas rebooting is always Windows. Whatever you have in Windows, it is also the same thing. So you have a restart option here, right? So when you click on power, so there is something will come restart, right? So it is same thing. Restart or reboot in Linux also it remains same.
Because I thought one is when you do one, either I don't know if it's restart or reboot, you start the processor. The other one, you did not touch the processor.
No. Reboot also nothing but it's kind of so shut down all the machine and start it back the machine.
Okay.
Yeah. But you're not powering it off.
Okay.
Sir, what is the difference between start and restart the services?
So start is nothing but if it is stopped, you will start it. Your restart you will do if it is already running, right?
Okay, and what is this preset disabled?
It's a vendor preset, by the way, right? So vendor preset means maybe vendor preset means you went and went to your store and you brought a wall clock. Okay. Now the vendor, while the product has been made out and when it came out, it is some time, by the way. Now once after you brought it to your home, maybe you set the right time and then you put it, right? So the vendor preset time is different. And once you are doing it, so vendor preset means it's again English. It's not a technical word, by the way. It's a preset values, right? So when it's out of manufacturing, what is the default value? It's like that.
Okay, instead of start, I did restart. It won't affect any services.
Let it affect. How does it matter? We're not talking about that, right? So we're talking about how to start and how to stop.
Okay.
So Raghu, so this question, right, I just need a yes or a no answer. So if you have like 2 or 3 services running in a server, right? Either Nginx, you have Jenkins, and you have one other application running in the server, right? And you now stop Nginx, right? The other application will still be running on that same server uninterrupted, right?
Yeah, correct.
All right, thank you.
Cool.
Hello.
Yeah.
Can we create the service while
We will.
I'm
Yeah, we will in the project. We'll
okay.
create our own services. When we go into the project, the requirement comes.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
All right. Now just imagine, by the way, let's talk about a proper, normal English only. Okay, so these are all concepts only, so it's not pure technical concepts also, maybe general concepts only. What is that I mean is, for an example, now let's say I have a laptop. Here is my laptop. Okay, and there is my server. Okay. forget about the whole world, how the things works, by the way. Or let's say I'm in my home, I have one server and I'm actually having one laptop, right? So then if I want to access this particular server over the, this one, then what I can do is I can just take a cable and connect these two machines, by the way. So, right, we have a cable, network cable is there. Okay, network cable with RJ45. Okay, so something cable, this cable, I connected both the devices. So the cross connections, you can do that configuration. You can do a machine to machine cable also. Maybe the cable which you may be using is not a machine to machine cable, machine to router cable, by the way. Generally, when you purchase a Wi-Fi router, these cables will come as machine to router thing, by the way, but not like, let's say if I want to do a machine to machine also, the cable can help. I mean, there is these wires actually need to be cross configured. Okay, so I directly make it and I'm able to manage that. That's fine. Okay, now assume that so, and how the network is going is, for an example, so here network packets is there. Okay, how the information will actually share from laptop to server is, they call it as a packet. Packet is also is a not technical word, is an English word only. So they call it as a network packet. Okay, so let's keep that way. So network packet, and network packet is there to, okay, so network packets will always go from here to here, and come back from here. So this is what is the thing will happen on the wire, by the way, right? So I think that much clear. Now, well, this network packet goes to the server and knocks the server door and opens the server. Try to get onto the server. But server is a big one, by the way. So when you say server is a big one, that means the server is meant to run many services, right? Maybe I'm running 10 different services. Now, which server to hit is a question. Okay, let's say it's a delivery boy who is trying to deliver the package from one location, geographical location, to another geographical location. Now he tried to reach to a door, by the way. That door is a single floor building and with a one door only, no problem. He delivered the packet there, no issues. But now he entered into a building that is a multi-store building, by the way, where there are many doors. Okay, then the address should have not only the main door address, which is the building address, by the way. So this is one address. Okay, and also should have an address that where it has to deliver. Okay, a particular unit number also, maybe like so the door number of the flat number, right? Try to understand that. So it has simple logic only is applied here only. I don't think so there is nothing too much logic. If you understand the delivery person delivering a packet, then the whole network you start understanding, by the way. Okay, to start with at least. So the packets are coming from one place to another place to while it is delivering. Okay, now only one address. Okay, my server address. The main address is my server address. Now once I reach my server, I cross the main gate, I go inside. By I see many doors, by the way. So where to deliver this packet is a question mark. And that's where every door number again will have another number. Okay, and here those particular numbers or those particular doors are basically is services. One minute. Is happening. Okay. So yeah, so this is a service, by the way. So now who is actually each and every door there is services. Okay. Now service should have an identity so that your packets will be routed to that particular service appropriately. Okay. That identity also comes with a number. That identity also comes with a number, and which we call it as a port number. Okay. Every service, whatever we open or we run, by the way, so it's going to have a number, by the way, that is a port number. Now, any service you started, you will have a ports. And all the ports information generally you'll find out in the system, by the way. So cat/etc services. Okay. So you will see these many services and port numbers as well. These are all registered ports, something like that. Okay, so like basically like head -20, it tells that so the service, the ports ranges from you can see this. It starts from 0 to all the way. The categorization is there, and it's from 0 to 65,535 ports. So that means every server can hold those many services, by the way. These many services. But of course, we don't run those many services, but still these many services we can run. And that means each and every service, in order to receive the network, so that's where they come up with a number, by the way. They open certain port on the number. So that's where you can check that particular port's information, on this particular server. I'm not sure that came. Okay. So let's install one package. I will fix this. So DNF install net-tools. So this command, this package will bring one command called as netstat, by the way. Netstat. Netstat is going to give you so much information, by the way, but I'm looking for the listening, the listening ports only. And that's where the listening ports will come. And listening also, you get many ports, by the way. So I want only the network, pure network thing, by the way. So that's where the TCP, we call it up. The TCP will use, and you're getting this. So now you can see this, the HTTP. So HTTP port is open, but if I want to know that number, by the way, so then LTN you can give. Netstat-LTN is going to tell us, what port actually is running. But how can I say this? The 80 port is for Nginx only. And so that's where the relation will come into picture by using netstat-lntp. So, but the P information won't come unless until you use sudo netstat-lntp. It is telling that, this 80 port has been opened by Nginx. Now, if it is a Jenkins, it will show that there is the name is Jenkins, and in the left side, the port number is something it will show. So that is how it is going to be. So that means, so certain port is there. So now that means I am actually trying to access this particular server on the web browser. Web browser by default hits 80 port only. I'm clearly giving HTTP, by the way. I'm giving it, but actually I'm not able to reach the server. I'm not able to reach the server. So why I'm not able to reach the server? Because I'm reaching the premises of Amazon here. Now previously we talked about the server is actually in my home, by the way, and I can able to manage it, right, directly access and all. But now this guy is actually inside Amazon. Now this is being coming into bounding into an Amazon layer, AWS. Now Amazon coming into picture, so they comes with certain standards, by the way. Now any server, someone want to reach to that particular server, so they should have a proper security checked, by the way. Now let's say there is a apartment, like whoever want to go, they can't go, right? There's an office building, whoever want to go, they can't go it. Just like a mall, like no one goes there. So there's a proper validation happens, who is the person going in, right? So validation, right? So the servers are very much critical things, and this validation, network validation is essential, by the way. So that's where your network traffic will always pass through a device in Amazon, or even in normal organizations also. Without cloud also, this is a quite common concept, and which this one is called as firewall. Now they are actually keeping a security guard for your server. They're keeping one security guard in your server, and the security guard is called as a firewall. And it actually, if the entry is there in the firewall, then it will allow that particular guy to reach to your server. Otherwise, it will not allow that traffic to go into that particular server. Now in our case, our firewall, our security guy is actually blocking that things. Now what we can do is we can go to the security guy and tell that, hey, security guy, so can you please allow my 80 port also to reach to the server? Now you can go to the security guy. So here onto the server, you click it, you go to the security, and there is something called a security groups. Open that security group. Now you say that, edit inbound rules, and add rule. Now which port actually we want to reach? 80 port I want to reach. And from where I want to reach? From anywhere. The anywhere is actually represents as 000. Why it is represents at 000? We'll talk about this bit later. Okay. So, but for now, this is okay. And just click on save. Now, what I have done is, I have just allowed my security guy to, to allow 80 port also to go and reach the server. So previously we are using 22 port. Why 22 port? Because you're always connecting your server with 22 port. If I'm not sure if you have observed or not, you're giving an IP address, but on the right side the port number is always 22. Right side the port number is always 22, right? So that is where 22 is already open, and that's how you're reaching the server. And when you're creating the server, Amazon is smart enough to understand you're creating a Linux box and allowing the 22 port by default. And that's where you're able to reach. Now my port 80 is also open. I go here and try to refresh. I should see the response from my server. If Nginx is running, did I have Nginx? It's running, right? 80 port. So now http:// this one. It is running. Port 80 000. This is also good. Then it should not take this much time. So let me try here only. So call my local IP address. If I view, it's working. Okay, locally it is working fine. So that means only on the remote side I'm not getting it. The IP tables that I have not disabled. It's all okay. Is it the IP address correct? Correct. Interesting. Oh, this much time it has taken. Okay, so there could be two reasons. One is the firewall has taken little bit time to update, or my server itself is giving this much time to respond for every request. Seems my server is slow, not Amazon. Okay, so this Red Hat 9 operating system is struggling with a lower end configuration, which is T3 micro, I think. Okay, so that's fine. But anyhow, we're able to, it's struggling with some resources. That's okay. So now anyhow, we are able to see the page. We're getting that particular web page. That's how we are able to access the service. Now, anytime you start any service on the network side, you need to open certain port. And when we start with the project, actually, maybe tomorrow, we'll start dealing with the firewall. So certain project standards will try to take it up, and we'll try to, so go with those particular things, and we will start doing our project, by the way. Mostly in tomorrow's session, we'll start with the project. And we'll come back 1 or 2 topics still there in the Linux, by the way. So we will just cover after the project, and we'll just move on with the automation. So that's the idea. That's all from my side for today as well. Like, any questions, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Raghu, for this explanation and this practical you just gave us. So for networking and for us to see the result on the web, we need to look at the port, at the firewall, and also at the IP tables, right? So my
IP
question
tables
again,
is not needed. Generally, we'll disable the IP tables. Usually in the organizations also, will not too much go with the IP tables, because see, the idea is very simple. Now, prevention is right. Prevention at the entry point is always very important, by the way, right? So that means now IP tables is nothing but the firewall on the operating system. That's it. Operating system is also giving one firewall. Now, if someone is actually crossing your firewall and getting already onto the operating system, okay, And so that's where the security is always already weak, by the way. So he crossed some other thing, and he can definitely cross this as well. So that's where the entry point prevention has to be very much important. And that's where there's a philosophy, and that's where the people always try to ensure, okay, so the network layer is to be very secure, then the server to be much secure. Server also has to be, I'm not denying that, but especially this firewall thing usually comes out of the server, and so devices has to take care generally. So that's where in the operating system, so we don't necessarily need to look at the firewall thing. That is fine in that
So in this kind of situation whereby maybe the firewall team, you put a request or you put a ticket out there to the firewall team to get some ports open, right? And they check the ADB and they ask that, oh, what is the source IP and the destination IP? So in this situation, if the firewall team asks you, so the source IP will be your laptop or wherever device you're using to access the application, and the destination IP will be the endpoint or will be the server. Is that how it works?
Yeah, may or may not be. The process I don't want to comment, because process always change from organization to organization, and assume that you own the complete network again, right? So maybe you yourself will do, or if someone is doing, you'll request them. That's it, as simple as that. Right?
Thank you, Raghu.
Sorry, I lost you. Did you got it?
Yeah, sorry, someone just knocked on the door. Thank you.
Yeah. Anyone? Any other questions?
Yeah, Raghu. So actually, we were talking about the firewall here, right? So this is AWS firewall, or is it like usually, if we from the architecture perspective, if we go with the 3-tier or 2-tier architecture, we in general we also deploy a firewall resource, right? If we are talking from the Azure perspective, because like I'm from Azure background from before, so or is this that kind of resource firewall which you were explaining right now?
Yeah, this is a resource firewall, correct? We are comparing them.
Like which we create to enhance the security of our VM or the server, right?
Correct.
Okay. So basically here we need not create it explicitly in AWS. It will be directly created, as I assume.
Exactly.
Oh.
Any other questions?
So Raghu, now this is outside today's topic. I love using VS Code as my IDE, or is it IED or IDE? How can I link my port 22 instead of using PORTY to use VS Code?
You can use it. So in the VS Code, you have a terminal. When you open the terminal, you can simply do SSH, like how I'm doing it in my command line, right? So you simply do SSH, EC2 user, and the IP address. Then it asks for password, you enter the password.
Okay. All right. Sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah, hi Raghu.
Yeah.
So it's like a little bit outside of the topic today. So can you like briefly, maybe later also, like touched upon how we are connecting to a firewall, like what is the internal things happening in PY when we are doing anything and reaching the AWS firewall or any firewall in that case, like.
I did not got it exactly.
I mean the how
To
like.
understand how firewall is working.
No. I mean, how we are connecting to the firewall from our laptops or any client to the server, like how it is like we are doing it. Suppose www.google.com, we are typing it. Now how it is hitting the Google server to scan, how it is doing internally.
Still, I'm not clear with the question. Like,
So you said the laptop is current, like through laptop we're connected to the firewall, this network packet. So how the network packet find out? So here, this is the firewall. Just here it is the firewall is placed, and we need to connect this one.
That's a network flow, by the way. It's basically like a security gate while you're reaching from one destination to another destination. So there's a security checkpoint.
Okay.
You're going from your home to, let's say, your office. There's a in between a police checkpoint. You know your destination. While you're going your destination, you're being checked, by the way. So that is a firewall job.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Raghu, in this connectivity, right, where does the VPN, the subnets?
We'll talk about that.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? All right, cool. So then in that particular case, let's meet in tomorrow's session, and also just start asking your organizers that, okay, so we are starting sending the onboarding emails. Okay. So start asking your organizers that, so hey, can you just send the full onboarding email kind of a thing? Okay. So mostly today, tomorrow, we'll try to complete that. And from Monday, or the next week session, for some people, it may be Sunday. So we're going to start attending the sessions in a portal, by the way. Okay. So it's also going to be a Zoom, but it's going to be some portal. You'll get onboarded to the portal, and the recordings and everything, will be available there. All right. So now what all the links, whatever you're using so far, will all get discarded other than that GitHub link, and rest everything comes from a proper LLM portal, learning portal, by the way. All right. So let's meet in tomorrow.
Hi, Raghu. So discarded means like still that will be there for me to watch, right?
No, those all
For
shifted
the-
to another place, by the way. So
Oh,
proper.
okay. Okay, video still will be there in some other place, right?
Yes, right.
Oh, okay. Okay, got it. Thank you.
Yeah. So who will send the onboarding messages? So whoever you are actually, from whomever you got this particular link, just talk to that person. So just text them or talk to them. So that's it. All right. So see you in one more hand.
Yeah, it's me again. So I didn't catch
Yeah.
that part when you talk about onboarding. So is it that we should expect an email from
Right.
whoever that introduced us to this class?
Right. Or them, it's basically end of the day, it can be me as well. Okay. So that's okay, but you just check with your organizer. Hey, I am yet to receive my onboarding email. So can you please send me? The rest we'll take care in the background. Don't worry.
Okay, hopefully we'll receive an email because
Yeah,
I've been joining the class through the link on the WhatsApp though.
Yeah, no problem.
Just please reach out, okay?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. Good day. Good night. Bye.